let's take another leap, shall we? So we've experimented with jQuery, and we know one of the most powerful things that jQuery has is this ability to very easily using the jQuery selector, select elements that you're interested in working with. And then using the each option, you can operate on each of those elements. And you can set anything you want. You can add new children to the elements, you can change attributes to the elements, whatever you want to do. So this allows you to not only interrogate the document object model, but also alter it. Now, there's another component to this, which is the user interface component. So jQuery provides these amazing user interface features that you can access and manipulate. Okay, so let's take a look at a sample interaction that you can do, which is really cool. All right, and that is the sortable interaction. So to get to this, you click on the demos link and then you go to sortable. All right, so what sortables will do is it'll give you the ability to work with list items, but you can reorganize them. All right, so that's kind of nice. You can move these list items around, and I'm actually changing the HTML locally in the browser as I do this. One kind of cool one that we could apply to the college picker is something called the connect lists. Well, what connect lists allow you to do is reorder elements in multiple lists. Pretty awesome, right? Okay, so how do you do this? Well, already the jQueryUI is loaded into the college picker via the JavaScript. So let's take a look at that just to show you. All right, so let's go to Stonehill, courses, jQuery, and we'll go to college.js. Oops, I want to open that with Xcode. Okay. Oops. Sorry, I didn't mean that. It wasn't in the JavaScript code. It was over here in the HTML. So this line, the style sheet link, locates the jQuery CSS, and then this gets us access to the JavaScript that's necessary to let jQuery run, the jQuery UI widgets run. Okay, so this particular widget, or I guess they're calling it an interaction, allows us to reorganize elements in different lists. So how does it work? Well, there's a little bit of code that says the simplest way to do this is group all related lists with a CSS class and pass that class into a sortable function. So let's view the source for this example and take a look at the code that actually needs to execute. It's this line of code, or several lines of code right here. So we use the jQuery selector to identify the elements we want to operate on. And what it looks like is we just need to pass in the information about the two unordered lists that we're working with, okay? And then what we're going to say is that they're connected with the class connected sortable, but we don't have to do that. We can do them connected with any jQuery selector. So we can just say they're connected with UL. All right, so let's grab this and see if we can get it to work. That's the code that we want. And let's get over to our college picker. Right, at the moment, I can grab something, Harvard, WPI, whatever, and I can can't move it around. But now we're going to write a little bit of jQuery that allow us to do this. So first of all, the classes that we used, if we take a look at our HTML, the classes are the class A list for one unordered list and the class B list for the other unordered list. So let's do that. A list and B list. Okay, so that identifies the list items we're going to operate with. We're going to connect the list item. The classes are connected. We're going to make those sortable, and we're connecting them by saying connect sort, well, not connect sortable, but we're saying if it's an unordered list, then we want the list to be connected. We only have two unordered lists. We have this unordered list and this unordered list. Okay, cool. So hopefully this will work. Let's hit enter. And it looks like it said, well, I've got two unordered lists. We'll make them sortable. So if this worked, then I should be able to grab Harvard and move it under Yale. Voila. What if I were in a situation where what I wanted to do is make sure that that all the schools that were in Massachusetts were schools that were really important to me? And I don't know, I think I'm going to move MIT down to my B list. Sorry, MIT. Move Harvard up here. Well, what do we do this? So any school that's a Massachusetts school is going to go on my A list. So Harvard's going to go up there. MIT is going to go up there. Let's get MIT up there. And maybe this would be my order. Stonehill, WPI, Harvard, MIT, Yale, and Duke. So Yale and Duke will be on my B list. We could put them all on the A list. If you decided to apply to all of them, I don't want anything on my B list. So that's pretty wild, right? We're letting the user interact with these lists through the document object model using jQuery, using the jQueryUI framework. Now, all this stuff is happening very quickly in real time. It feels like it's running locally because it is. But at some point, we'd have to let the backend know about this change in order. And we'll talk about that, how that works in a little bit. For right now, we're just changing the order in the document. Some point in the future, we got to get that information back to the caller, or back to the Python script in the back end, running in the back end, so they can save this A list and B list in some kind of data store. Okay, so that's an example of one of the user interface components that you get for nearly free, basically free, with very little effort. Okay, but you would not want to have to write the code from scratch to make College Picker work the way it just worked. All right. Now, I'm going to refresh this. And now it's forgotten about its ability to move around. But all I'd have to do is add this, whoops, let me go back. All I'd have to do is just add that, this basically one line of code using jQuery, and suddenly I can move stuff around. Amazing. Okay. And of course, that could go in my regular JavaScript. Okay, well, let's take a look at another example of an interesting widget. So one of the ones that I really like is the date picker. So let's take a look at this. So you will definitely have situations where you need a user to enter a date. And the question for the user is, okay, how do I enter the date? Do I say March 23rd, 2019? Do I say September 11th, 2019? Or do I let this date picker help me choose the date? So today's April 6th, so I'm gonna click this. Oh, that's how I do it. It's 04/06/2020. See, that's a problem with users. We don't want them typing in dates because you never know what format the date's gonna come in. It's much better to use the date picker. Okay, so, and there's lots of cool ways that the date picker could work. You know, you can display multiple months. I've got April and May. We can, I don't know, display it inline. So you just pick the date. That's kind of cool. Kind of like that one. showing our current date, and we can pick any other date we want, move forward. This one's awesome because the user definitely cannot mess around with that. All right. So let's say that we wanted to go back, and we'll just use the original date picker. All right. So how do we get this to work in the code? Well, let's take a look at the source for the date picker. You do two things. You have this line of HTML that says I have input type text and it has an ID of date picker. And then you have a little bit of code that says the thing with the ID date picker, that's a date picker. And then the menu will show up. So let's do this. Let's put the date picker in our college picker. All right, and the way I'm going to do that is I'm actually going to go back to the original HTML, and I'm going to put an input type equals text and ID equals date picker. You can give it any ID you want. You want to use the input type of text though. And then we'll close that input and we'll save this. Okay. Refresh. Okay, so now we have the date picker here. Now the thing I wanted to say is, this is just a text box. I can write anything I want in here. This text box does not know it's a date picker yet. We need to register the date picker. So we can register the date picker one of two ways. We can register it down here in the console, but then it's very temporary, or we can register it in the JavaScript. So I'm actually going to add it to the JavaScript. And the code to add it to the JavaScript is right here. And let's bring up, oops, that's our old code. Close that. And let's get this here. College.js, open with Xcode. We're just going to add this line here that says, hey, look for the date picker and make that a date picker. Pretty straightforward. All right, we'll save this. And we will go back here to the college picker, hit refresh. And now this box is now a date picker. If I click on it, boom, up comes the calendar. Interesting color scheme. We're going to talk about that color scheme in a second. But now I can select my date. Boom. All right, 4/11/20. All right, now, how do I find out about the value of this? What is that? Well, I could say, let's go over here and find out from the API documentation how to get some useful fields. Oh, here we go. Get date. All right. That's why I couldn't quite figure it out. A little bit sneaky. Okay. So we're going to say date picker dot date picker dot get date. There we go. So that gets the date that we picked, and you can see it matches, right? 4/23/2020. Eastern Daylight Time is quite a sophisticated date that we have there. All right, cool. So that shows you how to use the date picker. So there's one other thing I wanted to talk about, which is interesting, is, I've got this really warm looking calendar, right, where the buttons are all in orange. When I do the date picker in this example, and I click on the date picker, it's not looking like that, right? We've got a different kind of grayed out, more somber looking theme. So it turns out that the reason why my calendar looks warm and fuzzy and sunny, and the reason why the other calendar looked a little grayer, is because jQuery comes with many cool and interesting themes. Sort of, it's basically a color scheme and kind of a look and feel for a lot of the widgets that it provides for its user interface. So this picture here is giving you an idea of what the user interface would look like if you displayed a calendar using a particular type of jQuery UI. So this is the base UI, which we're using. I picked the Sunny UI as my sample UI, but there's a lot of other ones that you could choose. For example, you know, we just missed St. Patrick's Day a few weeks ago, but we could do, I don't know if LaFrog is one of the ones that's available, but there's a bunch of these that we can do. So there's one here that's called Dark Hive, right? So how do we know what those are? What ones are available? Let's see if I can remember how to do that. I've just looked this up. So jQuery theme CDN. So this is a query that someone said is, hey, where is Google hosting any of the themes that jQuery offers? And maybe that's not the best one. I found one that had a pretty nice list. Here we go. Somebody figured this out. So these are the names for the theme. So let's go to do something a little darker. So let's try Dark Hive. All right, so the idea here is instead of seeing a friendly, warm, and fuzzy looking calendar, I'm going to use the Dark Hive calendar. So how do I do that? Well, let me show you. Right here in the college HTML file, I've got a link to a particular jQuery theme. And you'll notice right there it says Sunny. But if I change this to Dark Hive and save it, and then go over here and refresh, now I click on the calendar. Boom, dun, dun, dun. Everything's dark. Make my selection. Make my selection again. It doesn't really change anything other than the look and feel of the application. So there's a whole bunch of these themes that are available. This is actually kind of a good URL to go to, although I don't know how up to date it is. But you're just looking for the name that you're going to put into here. Oops, that was the wrong way. The name that you're going to put into here in the link for the HTML file that links to the jQuery UI CSS. And if we go back to the theme roller UI, you can pretty much guess what it's going to be by just looking at these and making them lowercase and putting a dash between them is probably what will work. I don't know if that hosts everything. I'm a little curious, so let's try LaFrog just as a, let's see if it works. So LaFrog. Oh, looks like it worked. So there we go. Nice and green, very St. Patrick's Day oriented.